story of a woman Hollywood forgot. Until the morning someone found her, and the newspapers made sure no one ever would. On the morning of January 15th, 1947, a woman was walking through a vacant lot in Los Angeles with her 3-year-old daughter. She noticed something lying in the grass. At first, she thought it was a broken store mannequin. Someone had dumped it there, she figured. But as she got closer, she realized it wasn't a mannequin at all. What she had found would become the most infamous unsolved case in the history of Los Angeles. And nearly 80 years later, we still don't know who did it. Her name was Elizabeth Short. She was 22 years old. She had come to Hollywood the way thousands of young women did in the 1940s, with big dreams and very little money. Elizabeth grew up in Massachusetts. Her childhood was difficult. Her father abandoned the family during the Great Depression, and her mother raised 5 daughters mostly on her own. Elizabeth struggled with her health, suffering from severe asthma and bronchitis. Doctors told her the cold winters in New England were making it worse. So as a teenager, she moved to Florida to stay with her father, who had resurfaced there. That arrangement didn't last. She eventually made her way to Southern California, where she bounced between small jobs, rooming houses, and the hope that she might break into the movies. She was strikingly beautiful. People who knew her said she always dressed in black. She had dark hair, pale skin, and blue eyes. She stood out in any room she walked into. But Hollywood didn't open its doors for her. In the months before her passing, Elizabeth was essentially drifting. She stayed with friends, dated different men, and moved from place to place with no permanent address. She was last seen alive on January 9th, 1947, at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. 6 days later, she was found in that vacant lot. The details of what was done to Elizabeth Short are too unsettling to describe fully. What can be said is this: she had been deliberately posed, she had been cleaned, and she had been left in the open, as if whoever did this wanted her to be found. The condition of the remains suggested a level of precision that deeply troubled investigators. Some would later speculate that the person responsible may have had medical or surgical knowledge. This wasn't an act of impulse. It was calculated, deliberate, and chilling. Police arrived at the scene within hours. But what happened next would complicate the investigation in ways nobody could have predicted. The case was handed to the LAPD's Detective Division. Detectives began retracing Elizabeth's last known movements. They spoke with hotel staff at the Biltmore. They tracked down friends, acquaintances, and men she had been seen with. But before the investigation could gain real traction, the newspapers got involved. And this is where the story takes a turn. A reporter from the Los Angeles Examiner called the police, pretending to be a concerned citizen, and obtained details about the woman's identity. The paper ran the story with massive headlines. Other newspapers followed. A circulation war erupted, and Elizabeth Short became the center of it. It was the press that gave her the name the Black Dahlia. Not the person responsible, not the police. The newspapers created it, borrowing from a popular film noir movie of the time called The Blue Dahlia. They crafted a mythology around her. She was painted as a mysterious, glamorous woman with a dark side. Much of it was exaggerated. Some of it was entirely invented. Here's what most people don't realize. The media frenzy didn't just sensationalize the case. It actively damaged the investigation. Tips poured in by the hundreds. More than 50 people claimed responsibility for what happened. None of them were credible. Witnesses who might have come forward with useful information were drowned out by the noise. Detectives spent valuable time chasing leads that went nowhere, many of them planted by attention seekers inspired by the headlines. The person responsible, it seemed, was also watching. Shortly after the incident, a package was mailed to a newspaper. Inside were Elizabeth Short's personal belongings, including her birth certificate, photographs, and an address book. The items had been treated with a chemical solution, likely to remove fingerprints. A note accompanied the package, assembled from cut-out letters that read, "Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow." No letter ever came. Over the following decades, the case generated more theories than perhaps any unsolved case in American history. One of the most persistent theories pointed to a man named George Hodel, a wealthy Los Angeles physician. Decades later, his own son, a retired LAPD detective named Steve Hodel, came forward and publicly named his father as the person responsible. He pointed to his father's medical expertise, his troubling past, and the fact that the LAPD had actually surveilled George Hodel in the late 1940s in connection with another case. But here is the thing. Despite the circumstantial connections, no definitive proof has ever been established. George Hodel left the country in 1950 and lived abroad for many years. He was never formally charged. Other persons of interest have been named over the years. A bellboy from the Biltmore, a man who lived near the vacant lot, even a known repeat offender who was active in the area at the time. Each theory gathered its own believers, its own evidence, and its own dead ends. The LAPD has never closed the case. The truth is, we may never know what really happened to Elizabeth Short. Too much time has passed. Key evidence was mishandled or lost, and the very media circus that made her famous may have been the thing that ensured the person responsible was never found. In recent years, there have been calls to apply modern forensic techniques to the case: DNA analysis, genealogical databases, digital reconstruction of evidence. Whether any of this will ever yield results remains uncertain, but the case remains officially open. Elizabeth Short came to Los Angeles hoping to be seen. In the end, she became one of the most recognized names in American case history. But the version of her that the world came to know was largely a creation of the press. They turned a young, struggling woman into a character in a noir thriller. They gave her a dramatic name. They built a legend. And in doing so, they may have buried the truth along with her. The Black Dahlia case isn't just an unsolved mystery. It's a story about what happens when tragedy becomes entertainment, when a person becomes a headline, when the spectacle becomes bigger than the search for justice. It's a question worth asking, because nearly 80 years later, we are still telling her story, and we still don't have the answer. This story was never about the person responsible. It was about following the red threads, the small, hidden connections that most people overlook. That's what we do here. We pull on those threads, one case at a time, one story at a time. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, subscribe to The Red Thread. The next story is already waiting.